Hey guys, Woody the Unexceptional Gamer, and the games for the next-gen consoles are starting to drop. We know how they'll perform. We know the specs. We've been talking about hardware for a while. Now, the proof is in the pudding. So, let's talk. Up until now, we've all been guessing about how these two consoles would stack up next to each other. Been wondering, right? We've been looking at the hardware specs, tearing down the cloud, all this funky stuff, but now the first games are out. It's not the last word in console performance, but it is the first word in console performance, and that's really interesting to me. So, let's talk. I've got two games on my mind that are both cross-platform. One is Battlefield 4, the game you're looking at in front of you. Now, of course, on PC, it runs on all kinds of different resolutions, and, crazy things. I'm playing at 1080p on a PC in front of you. On the PS4, it runs at 900p. Now, everybody wants it to run at 1080p. That's perfect. That's what the commonly available monitors and TVs are running at now. And if you have 1080p, it's full resolution. If you're running at 900p, then it has to stretch it a little bit. Kind of like taking an image into Photoshop and making it bigger. Does it look as good? If you stretch it a little bit, it looks almost as good. If you stretch it a lot, then it doesn't. So, if you play this game on the PS4, you're probably stretching it from 900p to 1080p. A little bit of a stretch. If you're playing it on the Xbox One, it goes from 720p to 1080p. Most likely you're playing it on a 1080p monitor or television if you've got a current thing. That's more of a stretch. And it's a little concerning, right? On Call of Duty, another game that's out. That thing is at 1080p, full perfect 1080p on the PS4. And on the Xbox One, it's 720p again. This is I don't want to call it a 10-year-old game engine because clearly the thing's been updated over the last 10 years. But typically when a game engine was designed a while back, it runs really well on current hardware. And it's a little bothersome that it doesn't run at 1080p on the Xbox One. Now, I said that this was the first word in console performance and not the final word. I thought I could get on this ledge in front of you. And here's what I mean by that. The Xbox One is more complicated to program for. That's not a good thing. That was a problem that plagued the PS3 in the last generation, and I think it held them back. There's a reason perhaps that Call of Duty always ran better on the Xbox compared to the PS3. Now those situations could be reversed. Why? Because the tricks that can make the Xbox One perform like the PS4 are hard to employ. Things like taking certain aspects of your physics engine or your rendering engine or your shading and putting it in the cloud and using compute performance on the other side of the world, that's tricky to do, right? That doesn't come easily. Things like using this ESRAM, which is, so the RAM is bandwidth constrained on the Xbox One. That's an issue for it. So things like using this ESRAM to get extra RAM performance out of it, that's tricky to do too. And that's a problem. So, it comes down to this thought that I have in front of me. On the Xbox One, the GPU is weaker and it's bandwidth constrained. The operating system is heavier because there's multiple operating systems splitting the hardware even when you're only playing games. And if that's not for you, then the Xbox One isn't for you. I feel like saying that these two consoles are equal is misleading at this point. They're just not. The consoles aren't the same. The PS4 is more powerful on your desktop. There are things about the Xbox One you might like more. For example, it doesn't have HDCP encoding, so you'll be able to record it more easily on the Xbox One. If you record your gameplay, that's probably the place for you. It's able to play media files, right? Whereas the PS4 out of the gate can't. If the way that you pick consoles is based on gaming performance and gaming performance alone, then it looks like the PS4, at least out of the gate, is going to be the stronger one. And all this talk of parity and making up for lost time and all this idea that somehow they're going to be the same and you can't tell the difference, based on the first round of games, you can tell.